I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's analysis of the news. Well, it's July, and our July issue of Prophecy in the News magazine is available. We invite you to call the phone number at the bottom of your screen, 1-800-475-1111, and get this issue sent to you in the mail. It's $2.95, and we'll pay the postage to get it to you if you'll call. Also, you might want to subscribe to this magazine for the next 12 months. And if Jesus comes before your subscription runs out, you can see him about the refund, okay? This is a fascinating magazine, by the way. The Great Total Solar Eclipse of 2009 is coming up on the 22nd of July. It will not be seen in North America, but will be seen by more people than have ever seen one before in history, because it'll be a total solar eclipse over India and China. More about that later. There's a lunar eclipse, an eclipse of the moon coming up also on the 7th of July, just a week away. Here's a report from the Temple Institute. And by the way, listen to Revelation chapter 11. There was given unto me, said John, a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood saying, Rise and measure the temple of God. This says there will be a temple built on the temple site, on the Temple Mountain anyway, during the tribulation period. And he goes on to say, Measure the temple of God and the altar, and them they worship therein, but the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it's given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread under foot 42 months. So, according to this, the Muslim mosques will continue to remain on the Temple Mount, but Israel will be given a carved out area somewhere on the Temple Mount to restore temple worship. Well, the Sanhedrin, of course, has already put the contract out for a prefab building designed to be a temporary Jewish temple. According to Rabbi Chaim Richman of the Temple Institute, he has announced the completion of the manufacture of 2 golden censers that are to be used by the priests in the service of the soon-to-be rebuilt Jewish temple. The Temple Institute has tasked itself with preparing for the rebuilding of the Jewish temple and has reconstructed many of the instruments that will be used in its administration. Here's the quote. The Temple Institute has just completed the creation of 2 golden besakim, that is frankincense vessels. Each vessel, made of 150 grams of 14-karat gold, is the result of intensive research, planning, and painstaking craftsmanship. The besakim, like all vessels created by the Temple Institute, are made in strict accordance with the word of the Torah, as it has been handed down from generation to generation since its revelation on Mount Sinai. Fascinating. It also continues, there are a number of things that are preventing the rebuilding of the Jewish temple. Ashes of the red heifer are required for the cleansing of the temple site, and the last red heifer born in Israel was found to have several white hairs in its tail, thus disqualifying it from being a suitable candidate for the ritual. The Temple Institute claims to have cracked the DNA code for producing a pure red heifer, so perhaps this may not prove to be such an insurmountable problem after all. Then there is the issue of the peace process. The Muslim world will not presently permit Israel to carry out any construction work near the Temple Mount. But the Bible seems to indicate that this problem will be resolved maybe soon. You recall that President Obama is telling Israel, stop construction, all construction of those areas that are claimed by the Palestinians. Well, this may be the reason why the Palestinians don't want Israel building. If they give an inch, Israel is liable to want to rebuild the temple. And that would really have the Palestinians upset. Here's an interesting article from Israel Today. A senior Israeli government official cited by the Hebrew daily Israel Ya'om on Monday said that Jerusalem is becoming, quote, fed up, end of quote, with the Obama administration's exaggerated focus on the construction of Jewish homes in Judea, Samaria, and eastern Jerusalem. U.S. President Barack Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton of late have become almost hostile when demanding that Israel halt the growth of Jewish neighborhoods in any areas claimed by the Palestinians. Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Shimon Peres, have responded by saying they cannot simply freeze the normal flow of life in these areas. Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak flew to Washington on Monday. He left Wednesday, today, and he had an effort to calm the tensions. The official who spoke to the Israeli news media said that Barak will impress upon the Americans that Israel is ready to consider a construction freeze in Jewish settlements, but only if it is a part of a larger agreement under which Washington will later publicly back the growth and inclusion inside Israel's recognized borders of certain larger settlement blocks. In the meantime, construction in these areas continues, and Israeli Minister of Intelligence Dan Meridor noted that contrary to the statements by Obama and Clinton, that is not a violation of Israel's peace commitments. Speaking to reporters in Jerusalem, Meridor recalled that when Israel accepted the U.S.-authored roadmap peace plan, it did so with 14 attached reservations. These reservations were acknowledged by the administration of former President George W. Bush, and Israel was provided with verbal agreements and guarantees that its commitments would not impede the normal flow of life in Jewish towns. Meridor rejected the Obama administration position that because the agreements were not written down and signed, they are no longer bear any weight. Quote, "We never had a deal with the Republican administration," Meridor said. "We had an agreement with the United States. These understandings were a part of the agreement. Its written part and its oral part complement each other. The agreement between Israel and the Bush administration allowed for the ongoing construction of new homes within existing boundaries of Jewish towns and neighborhoods in Judea and Samaria, so long as Israel did not extend those boundaries or build entirely new settlements." And Barak, as I said, came to Washington, D.C. on Monday, left today, and Israeli Defense Minister Ehud Barak departed New York for Israel following failed talks with U.S. Middle East envoy George Mitchell, aimed at easing tensions between the two nations over the continued growth of Jewish